Howdy y'all, Michael here. Today is Thursday, December 30th, 2021. I'm in the city of Frisco. More specifically, I'm at the Frisco Discovery Center, and we're going to visit the National Video Game Museum. Come hang out with me. Now, the city of Frisco was named after the Frisco Railroad, which was going to reach all the way out to San Francisco, and they never did. But that's what the city of Frisco is named after, because they had a water tower here, and the city kind of sprung up around it. Water tower meaning it was there to provide water for the old steam engines. But the National Video Game Museum is here, along with the Museum of the American Railroad, which we visited before. However, we did not visit the indoor portion of that museum, which is Traintopia. It's actually a miniature train set, I guess, set in the city. They were closed for COVID when we were last here. So as you walk into the lobby here, they got a statue from a game called Battleborn. I'm not familiar with this game, but it looks pretty bad to the bone there. The only reason I know it's from Battleborn is they don't want you to touch the statue. They also have a huge sculpture that was here last time I was here. Actually, I had an annual pass here. Came out here a few times just to play around, kind of reminisce. Anything to do with video games, including computer gaming, they will have something here for it. Apparently Battleborn is a pretty popular game. I'm just not that familiar with it. I'm sure these were promotional statues for it. Tickets bought, and they give you a little wristband. But as you come in, this is new for me. Collection of Nintendo statues here. I don't know, is Pac-Man Nintendo? I don't know if he is or not. But I know the majority of these other characters are Nintendo. Actually, this is Sega. I don't know this guy, I'm guessing he's Metroid. But Donkey Kong is definitely Nintendo. Is what is that? Pikachu? Is he Nintendo? Pokemon. That's what I couldn't remember. I was blanking out there. Pikachu. They are a museum. It's not just a collection of old equipment. This piece of equipment I would consider priceless. This is actually the very first prototype for the very first gaming system. I would say the very first game that was popular as far as video games was Pong. And they had several different versions of it, including Puppy Pong. I believe this was actually going to be a Snoopy on top of here. But they couldn't get the licensing, so they just went with Puppy Pong instead. You had your different variations. This one was Dr. Pong. It was licensed by Atari. They put everything in this museum in stages, so this is stage one, and this is where the home systems began. You got everything from Ultra Pong, Telstar, some of the early racing games. Very basic stuff that was very pricey during this time, including the Odyssey. And they do have the world's largest Pong game here. And this couple from Houston's gonna play as a little demonstration here. And it's harder than you think. Across from the giant Pong game is actually stage 2, which is a timeline of game systems. And I've actually played a few of these game systems, starting with the Atari 2600, which came out in 1977. Played hours of Pitfall, Pac-Man, some racing games. I can't even remember all the games I played there. 1985, when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, had a neighbor who had this and played quite a bit on that. 1989 came out the Sega Genesis. I played hours upon hours of Mortal Kombat with my friend JJ. My neighbor eventually got the Super Nintendo, which came out in 1991. This one came with a little gun, and we would play Duck Hunt. The Saturn came out in 1995. This is an interesting one. This is the Virtual Boy, and it was actually just red. And it was the first VR headset. Well, it really wasn't a headset. I believe it was on a stand, but you put your eyes up against it. Also that year, the PlayStation came out. And it was one of the first ones that I recall that had a CD on it. Nintendo 64. I still own a Nintendo 64. We bought it in 1997, 98. And it's still fun to play. In 1999, Dreamcast came out. And I believe this was Sega's last major game system that they had, but it was a little expensive for its time. It just didn't catch on. It was a great system. And then we come to the Microsoft age with the Xbox original. Did not have the original, but we do have an Xbox 360 in the house. My boys play it a lot. I don't play it so much. In 2006 came out the Wii. The Wii is fun. I still have it. I haven't fired it up in a while, but it's still in the house. And what's interesting about the Wii is that it actually had motion controls where you can swing stuff around and the screen would react to it. We even have a little platform, kind of like a scale. You stand on it and you can shift your weight around on it, and the Wii would react to that. It's more of a get off your butt and enjoy the game and get some exercise while you're at it. But the latest generation is the Nintendo Switch. We have the Xbox consoles at our house, and I just don't play them, but I probably would play this. This looks like fun. And plus it's portable. You can play it on the road or play it with your big screen. The story is a lot of these video game companies struggled, and I believe this is Atari's story, until they were able to have third parties start programming software. And this is stage 3, third party. Which means these were not people that made the game systems themselves, but they did program software for it. In fact, there was some third-party hardware involved with it as well. One of the major companies that made video games third-party was Activision. And this is for the original Atari 2600 system. And there's Pitfall. I mentioned that earlier. If you watch the Pitfall commercial, you'll see a very young Jack Black in that commercial. A little trivia for you. Find it on YouTube. Here's some games from Electronic Arts, including this one, which I did not see on display the last time I was here, but Infiltrator. I had that game. That was a lot of fun. Who could forget the old Soviet game Tetris? They do mention the different game systems that did have third-party software, including the Atari 2600. What's really cool here is you can actually touch and play each one of these game systems. And that kind of looks like Joust. Very low-res version of Joust. But you can actually look in there. It's not Joust. It's Mario Brothers. The next system up is the original Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES from 1985. I'm not sure what game that is, but it kind of looks like a Rambo type game. Oh, I'm wrong. It's Contra. And the third game system they have here in this section is actually the Xbox 360. Still a pretty popular system. And the improvement in the graphics from that, from the original NES there, is incredible. Now we're in the Infocom section. This brings back some memories. How many of y'all played Zork? And there were actually 3 of them I see here. Zork 1, 2, and 3. Looks like they had some other games I'm not familiar with. Oh wait, I am familiar with Beyond Zork. I can't remember if I played it or not. In your software package you would have these maps. You go from room to room. There's a display of some underground complexes. There were no graphics. This was all typed out. And it was basically a story that you participated in. And you made decisions that would affect the story. And I would spend hours and hours playing that when I was young. That brings us to stage 4, Control. I believe this was the first video game controller I ever played with. You had a little English horizontal, vertical. And I believe I played Pong on something similar to this. It's the N64 controller for the Nintendo 64. That's a Nintendo controller I never used. Can't say I used the Barbie controller for the PlayStation. And I don't recall ever playing the original Xbox. Here's the gun for the Super Nintendo. And just a little tidbit here. Your flat screen, LCD, LED, plasma, those televisions will not work with this gun. It has to be a CRT. Otherwise, they just won't work. So you have to have the old school television sets to work with this gun. Here's a PlayStation device. It was kind of a wand. Got a little ball on top would change colors. And you can wave the wand around. I believe that was Sony's answer to the Nintendo Wii. And here's the Sega Dreamcast controller. I played with this in the store. And there was a little module that would go in. Can't remember if it was a screen or a cartridge or what it was that went up in there. Who can forget the original Atari 2600 controller? And you also had a rollerball. I don't remember a keyboard being with the Dreamcast system. Apparently they had one. Stage 5, when everything went portable. I actually remember having this football game as a child, and I had no clue what I was doing. I was just playing it. It was something to kill time while we're taking the long road trips.
I'm sure if I grew up with that generation, that's what I'd want.
We had that football game, I swear to God. My brother did, and that's how I learned about football when we were on that Videogame. Electronic quarterback.
I think there was also a baseball version of this game too, wasn't there?
I remember the sounds that game.
I kind of remember playing the baseball
They had a
version.
baseball one there. It was not that though.
Of course, everyone remembers the original Game Boy. What's amazing is, like I said, you can play a lot of these games in your hand, but this was the original Game Boy, and that's a lot bigger than a lot of systems are now.
God, Merlin.
And I had a Merlin.
You did?
I had one of those Merlins, and I figured out how to beat on
These
tic-tac-toe.
little type things.
I remember those little games.
Yeah, you had Pac-Man, Frogger, Galaxian.
I remember Frogger.
Oh, go back and that was a good game.
Yeah, my brother was addicted to that. Donkey Kong
Yeah.
and Mrs. Pac-Man, which was exactly Pac-Man, but with a bow.
This
Of
right
course, you
here.
had the DS systems here, and they were actually pretty fun. In fact, they had one that was 3D, and it would mess with you after a while. I kind of remember these games. These were LCD games. This one's a watch and a game. And trust me, you didn't buy it to be a watch. Here's something I was familiar with. It's the e-reader. And basically, they would sell these cards in these packs. With these cards, you can unlock different levels that you couldn't unlock without them. So this little booger bear here would read those cards. And my kid's first Game Boy Advance we got on Christmas. And I think it was the last time we went in for a Black Friday sale was to get this little Game Boy. This is the baseball game, and I think we had that possibly as well. But everybody remembers the old football one. So I've had the Nintendo 64, and I've had the Wii, and my boys have Xboxes, but you're a Nintendo guy, like hardcore Nintendo guy.
Yeah, I've got the NES, the SNES, the N64, the GameCube, Wii. Don't have the Virtual Boy or the Wii U, but I have a Switch as well. DS, 3DS, and Game Boy Color.
Oh wow! See, I want to get the Switch, but my kids, they've outgrown it, and they're all Xbox now. So, and they both have Xboxes in their bedrooms, and they play it often. But my neighbor had the NES and the Super NES, so we played that a lot at his house.
See, we had that phase as well where we moved down from our Nintendo stuff at a young age and just wanted to do Xbox and stuff like that. But then we got a bit older and we were like, man, the nostalgia is different when you're playing the stuff you played as a kid.
Absolutely.
So now we're back with Nintendo. And I can't see playing Xbox again.
Of course, the next stage for those who lived through it was the crash. Video game system, they were just pumping out stuff, and they were eventually just considered crap after a while. And Atari is notorious for this. And one game especially, and if you ever play it, and I think you can play it here, is E.T. It was a horrible game. It was pushed through so quick. Steven Spielberg did not have anything to do with that video. But I've actually played the video game here, and I understand why they put them all in a landfill. What saved the video games? What's the PC? My next door neighbor at the time had this one. This was the IBM PC Junior, which was a smaller version of the IBM PC, which was the big breakthrough home PC. The ones I begged my parents for was this one, the Commodore 64. And here's a Commodore 64 monitor, but you could have used a TV screen for this as well. But this was awesome, and you can actually program with it with BASIC. You can get the joysticks, and it had this new technology called a disk drive or a floppy drive. And there's no floppy in this one. But before the floppy drive, we actually would use cassette tapes to upload and download programs. When I was a child in elementary school, our school got their first computer, which was the TI 994A. I believe this was 4 kilobytes, which was not much of anything. It did have a cartridge system, and it was slow as all get out. But I got to take this thing home every weekend. How about that? Then we got to the Trash 80s. The Trash 80 I remember, the TRS 80, was actually all one big system. The monitor and the keyboard were actually in the same housing together. Of course, they were still using tape recorders to upload and download programs. But they eventually, the newer ones, had disk drives that were right next to the monitor. At this stage 7, the Rise Again, one of the hardest games here was Dragon's Lair. What was amazing about it was incredible graphics for its time. It looked like an old cartoon.
A fantasy adventure where you become a valiant knight on a quest to rescue the fair princess from the clutch.
But the thing is, every move you made, the screen went black, and then you had to make the next move, and you had seconds to do it. So it was next to impossible to ever get this game completed. It was not smooth graphics, but was incredible graphics for its time.
In the mysterious caverns below the castle, your odyssey can...
Have you played Dragon's Lair? If so, let me know down in the comments. How far did you get on that video game? Next stage is stage 8. Create. And this one appears to be an Atari game system, which you can actually create your character for the Atari 2600. Nintendo had a few games as well where you can create the game from scratch. Mario style games and others as well. There's some PC creation games that you can create your own game and have others play it. But coming with the creativity is Minecraft. And Minecraft is probably one of the most basic graphic games out there. And kids will play for hours, and adults too. And it's still popular. It's on the Xbox systems now. You can get it on your cell phone. It looks like they're constantly making changes to this museum, because this section was more about the history and had the original offices of some of the game creators. Now it looks like they have a tribute to Nintendo all down this wall here. With a lot of the games they had with the Nintendo. They have a section on virtual reality. This is new since I've been here. We're talking seriously old school here. Who remembers the Power Glove?
What are you doing? Look through here?
You literally just, and you can move it.
And some of your early VR headsets here. Here's one of Nintendo's biggest failures, and pretty much had to put it on a tabletop and hunch down to play it. And what were you saying about it?
Yeah, it's all in black and red, and it gives people headaches and everything. It's just a super awkward system to use. That's why it didn't work out too well.
It was kind of weird getting in there, I would say, but it seems good.
This came out between the Super Nintendo and the N64. So, big difference between the two of those.
This is the graphics for this system, and it's not fluttering. That's a frame rate with the camera here. but you can get a pretty good headache with it. It was 3D. I think that was the big thing. It was 3D. This cabinet right here was here last time I was here, and these are all prototype games. And these were the cartridges that they would use on the final production system just to test them out. A lot of them say sample only. And this is just to make sure they worked. If you want to see the inside of the game cartridge, here's the inside of a game cartridge. That one was Summer Challenge. And this is for review only. Some of these went to the press, some of them were for evaluation only. Here's a cool display. This is just one game. There's a neat little display. This is just one game. Donkey Kong. It's a Commodore 64. The Nintendo Entertainment System. The Apple II. There's variations of the Apple II. There was the 2E and the 2 Plus and the 2C. They were all the same computer. It's just different retailers. So they can all have different prices, not price match. Here's the VIC-20, which was also an Atari system. Here's the original arcade system. The television. The original Game Boy. The original Atari 2600, the popular one that everybody saw. And ColecoVision. So what's a game without some promotional materials? Some t-shirts here. And I see 3 games that I played on this whole list. That'd be Space Invaders. Played the arcade version of that. I don't recall playing Pitfall 2. I played the original Pitfall. But I did play Star Fox on the original Nintendo 64. And here they have a section which has some games, and some of them are extremely rare. In fact, they had the Nintendo World Championships here. And there were pin switches on this particular cartridge. I'm guessing to limit the time they could play. I'm not sure exactly what that was. But those were not sold. They're very rare. Some ones I've never played or even seen. Stadium Events. I believe the Stadium Events is some of the cartridges. If you get a new in the box, it was an obscene amount of money. I don't know, was it $10,000, $20,000 to find that? Went on auction. I think the thing is if it was in the original case and it had the original price tag on the case, that helped the value go up. Even the cigarette manufacturers try to get on the video game. This was a promotional giveaway that Marlboro had, which is part of the Link system. I don't remember the Link system. Let me know down in the comments if you do. But there are a lot of game systems that I just don't remember at all. These were prototype boxes. I'm not so sure these actually were the final result, but there were just some ideas that they were looking at. And here's something I remember, the Nintendo robot, the robotic operating buddy. It'll go in with your Nintendo Entertainment System. You can pick stuff up and move stuff with it. That was pretty high tech back in the days. Here's another competition game, Star Fox. And the whole point of this game was to try to rack up as many points as you could within the 4 minutes before the game shut off. And this is for competitions, of course. Of course, more promotion items. Super Mario cereal. Pac-Man cereal. I remember a few of these making the market. They don't stay for very long though. Here's one that was sold only in Japan. This is a Nintendo 64 with a disc drive underneath. Had a magnetic disc drive. There was only a handful of items that you can play with this, including Mario Artist. There is so much to this museum, and don't want to short you on this. This video is not going to touch on everything, but I thought this thing was pretty interesting. Mattel was testing some resiliency on some of these game systems, and the whole point of this test was to set it on 150 degrees Fahrenheit and see how the game systems performed. Problem was they actually set it for 150 degrees Celsius, which is about 302 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think they work very well at 150 degrees Celsius. These are just mock-ups of games they were thinking about releasing, but they never did. But they had the boxes set up for it. Strawberry Shortcake, Incredible Hulk, and some Star Wars Jedi arenas. It's your typical living room of the late 70s, early 80s, including a velvet painting and dogs playing poker. Loving this couch here with an Afghan. Political Vision game, and these are all games you can actually play. And who remembers VCRs that look like this? This VCR was probably $1,000, $2,000 in that day, and that's not adjusting for inflation. Of course, in the 1980s is when I grew up. Apparently we skipped some stages. This is stage 14, Sanctuary. This is a typical teenage bedroom. Wasn't my bedroom. But they had the Simon game. I didn't own one of these, but I had friends that had them. They still sell that game. And of course, you have the little TV with the Nintendo Entertainment System. This one had the gun. Of course, any game you want to play here for a game system is probably going to be here. And you can play for hours. That's why it's worth it to get the membership. If you're into playing old game systems, get an annual membership. I think it's like $70, maybe $80 for the year. But you can come here and play to your heart's content. Okay, here's stage 12, Unplugged. It's basically board games of video games. And I really don't know how well a lot of these did. I'll just say this. I don't see these in the stores anymore. Stage 15 is respect for the people who created it. And this is a portrait of Keith Robertson. It is made completely out of Rubik's Cubes. And I want to say this is not the first Rubik's Cube portrait they have here. They had another person long ago. I can't remember who it was, but it's been a couple of years. It's made with 640 Rubik's Cubes. I would love to have this Nintendo box, the Nintendo 64 box. Little fiber optic box. It's just cool. They used to have these in the stores. Don't know who this character is, but he doesn't look like he's having a good day. However, I am familiar with this character from Halo. Can't tell you his name, but I know Noah would love to have this in his room. He was a big Halo player. And of course, more systems that I've even ever seen. Y'all remember the Jaguar from Atari? Never heard of it. Over here is a gigantic Game Boy display. And I kind of remember seeing this. I've seen pictures of this at least. The Atari Home Computer Demonstration Center. And these were set up at different stores. The Atari computer from 1979. Got Mrs. Pac-Man here. It's a clear case so you can see everything that's involved in these games. Cabinets were pretty big, but there wasn't too terribly much in them. That is one big old PCB board though. How many remember the status board here? to get the high score. And this is actually a live high score deal. These are actual people that have come to the museum and play these games. And those are the high scores that they got. Okay, stage 17 is play. And this is the typical arcade center where they had the black light paintings that go all the way around it. And some of these old video games. Here is Tron, made after a movie, and actually a game that was pretty good coming from a movie. A lot better than E.T. was with the Atari 2600. And unfortunately, wonk wonk wonk, out of order. How many of y'all played Q*bert? That was a pretty hot game for a while there. And we talk about the game Frogger all the time when we're on the freeway trying to play Frogger and not get hit. Just change lanes around Dallas traffic. And you wonder the creativity with some of these people like Joust. Who would have thought about a jousting on ostriches? But these ostriches can actually fly. Here's a game I always loved playing. I wouldn't play for hours. Pole position. This one was fun, and I think this one's live. Sure enough, it is. About around time. We've got Mortal Kombat here. And Dig Dug. Love Dig Dug. So here's an interesting thing. This is Galaga, but I've also seen it labeled as Galaxia. What's the difference between Galaxian and Galaga? Of course, they have Punch Out. The CRTs are very different. You can see them scanning. The exit through the gift shop. Lots of video game trinkets here.
If it's been punched, it's C. Then it's just good for one use.
And these are just framed 3D things of the games. It's me, Mario! Well, that's the National Video Game Museum. Definitely worth a trip. Definitely worth to have an annual pass if you enjoy playing the old classic games. Just come up here and have it as your own personal arcade. The arcade games in there, some of them are free, some of them do require these tokens. But every time you come here on an annual pass, they actually give you a lot more tokens than they do with a regular ticket. I think I got 4 tokens with this, and I think you can actually buy more there in the arcade section. But for now, y'all take care, be safe, bye. It's me, Mario!